Everyone has felt it. That moment when something small, a careless word, a cold glance, a quiet rejection, suddenly becomes heavy. Not in your hands, but inside your chest. It feels like a sudden drop in your stomach, a tightening in your throat. And the strange part is, it doesn't disappear. It stays. It follows you into the next conversation, the next hour, the next day, until you're no longer reacting to what's happening, but to everything that has ever hurt you before. Most people believe their pain comes from others. But what if the real weight you carry was never placed there by them? What if you've been holding it this entire time? There was a man named Daniel. He wasn't weak. In fact, most people thought he was strong. He wore his confidence like a thick armor to the outside world. He spoke confidently. He stood his ground. He never let anyone win. But inside, he was constantly at war. Every disagreement became a battle. Every insult became a wound. Every small moment became something he carried. He didn't forget things. He collected them, not intentionally. But somehow, everything people said to him stayed. And over time, it built something inside him, a quiet heaviness he didn't know how to explain. It started small. Someone interrupted him. He snapped back. A friend made a joke. He felt disrespected. A stranger ignored him. He replayed it for hours, his blood boiling. Each moment seemed insignificant to a bystander. But Daniel never let them go. Instead, he held on to them, not with his hands, but with his mind. He would replay conversations, rewrite arguments to make himself the victor. Imagine what he should have said. And every time he did, the feeling returned. Stronger, sharper. He thought he was protecting himself. But in truth, he was feeding something toxic that only made him heavier. One rainy night after a long day, filled with unspoken tension and frustration, Daniel sat alone. And for the first time, he noticed something. Every painful moment didn't just feel like a bad memory. It felt like a weight, as if he had picked something up, something small, but real. In his mind, he imagined it clearly, a stone. Each word someone said, each moment that hurt him, became a stone. And without realizing it, he had been carrying them, all of them, every single one. Days passed, then weeks, then months. The stones didn't disappear. They multiplied. Daniel felt tired even when he hadn't done anything. Conversations drained him. Silence made him violently restless. He couldn't relax, because no matter where he went, the weight followed. He began to feel something strange. It wasn't people anymore. It was himself, his reactions, his thoughts, his inability to let go. Something dark inside him was growing heavier by the minute, and it was no longer invisible. One freezing evening, after a simple argument with a coworker over a meaningless email, Daniel walked home alone. But this time, it felt different. He wasn't just upset, he was exhausted. He stopped in the middle of the street, under the flickering glow of a street lamp, closed his eyes, and for a moment, he imagined it. A heavy bag on his back, filled with stones, so heavy, he could barely stand. And in that moment, a quiet thought appeared. How long have I been carrying this? As he stood there struggling to breathe, an old man sweeping the front steps of a closed bakery watched him silently. "Looks heavy, kid," the man said, leaning on his broom. Daniel opened his eyes. "What is?" he replied. The man smiled. "What you're carrying?" Daniel frowned. "I'm not carrying anything." The old man nodded gently. "That's what most people think." Then he stood up, set his broom aside, walked closer, and pointed to Daniel's chest. "But I can see it dragging you down." Confused, Daniel asked, "What do you mean?" The old man bent down, picked up a small dirty stone from the wet concrete, and firmly placed it in Daniel's hand. "Every time someone hurts you," he said, "you pick one of these up." Daniel looked at the stone. "It's just a stone." The man shook his head. "No, it's your reaction. It's your pride." Daniel stayed silent. "And the problem is not that they throw it," the man paused. "It's that you choose to keep it." Daniel felt something shift. "All of them?" he asked quietly. The man nodded. "Every insult, every misunderstanding, every moment you stubbornly refused to let go out of spite." Daniel looked down, and suddenly he could feel it. The weight, not from others, but from himself. You chose to carry them, the man said softly. And now, because of your own choices, they've become your burden. But if I don't react, Daniel said, then what am I supposed to do? Just accept everything. Let people walk over me and treat me like dirt. The old man smiled again. No, you don't have to accept their behavior, but you don't have to carry their dirt with you either. Daniel hesitated, because for the first time, he realized something uncomfortable. His reactions were not protecting him like a shield. They were trapping him like a prison. The old man pointed to the ground. Try it, right now. Daniel hesitated. His fingers were wrapped tightly around the stone, his knuckles white. Then slowly, taking a shaky breath, he opened his hand and dropped the stone. It hit the ground, quietly rolling into a puddle. Nothing happened. No explosion. No consequence. Just silence. Daniel blinked. That's it, he asked. That's it, the man said. They stood there for a moment. And something changed. Not outside, but inside Daniel. The weight shifted, just a little. Not gone, but undeniably lighter. Every time you don't pick it up, the man said, you stay free. And every time you let your ego win and do, you carry it again. Daniel nodded slowly, tears pricking the corners of his eyes. For the first time, he understood. Days passed. Daniel practiced. Not perfectly, but intentionally. Someone spoke harshly. He paused. Someone disrespected him. He gripped his hands, exhaled sharply, and breathed. And each time, he asked himself one simple question. Do I really want to carry this stone for the rest of the day? Sometimes he did. Most of the time he didn't. And slowly, the stones stopped piling up. Life didn't become easier. People didn't suddenly change their stripes, but Daniel did. The frantic noise in his mind became quieter, his reactions slower, his presence calmer. He noticed things again. The sky, the silence, the space between moments. And most importantly, he noticed something he had forgotten. Lightness. True unburdened lightness. We cannot control what others say. We cannot control what happens to us. But we always have a choice. Not in what we receive, but in what we keep. Every reaction is a decision. Every decision becomes a heavy weight, or a liberating release. So tonight, when something stays in your mind, ask yourself, is this really mine to carry? And if it's not, open your hand and let it fall. Because true peace doesn't come from waiting for the world to magically become lighter. It comes from you choosing not to carry the weight.